Many of you know how much I love Isaiah chapter 9. A child is born, a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulders. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, and Prince of Peace. But I want to go just back a little before that. You see, these are the verses that are read so often at this time of year. They are sung in the great Handel's Messiah, when an opera-loving crowd know to stand for those verses, though they may not know the God that those verses are about. But go back a few verses and you read the beginning of this sequence of verses. And I can tell you this, I have read this in prisons, I've read it in hospitals, I've read it in churches, I've read it in schools, I've read it at weddings, I've read it at funerals. I love this passage. And you see, it begins, well, it doesn't quite begin, but where we often begin is that the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. And I believe that this is a prophetic word, specifically, of course, for us all, but I believe specifically for Europe at such a time as this. Many have talked at times about the darkness of Europe, and I don't choose to talk with that language. That's not how I talk at all. But I do believe that it is Europe's time, and the people who walked in darkness have seen. It's not they will see, they have seen a great light. And when I was sharing this yesterday with a small group of the Europe Shall Be Saved team, they asked me if I could just repeat some of it. You see, in September of this year just gone by, there was a breakthrough for me in a very difficult situation. And I looked down at my watch and I saw the date. The date was the 15th of September. And for my family, the Manwaring family, the 15th of September is a very special day. It is the anniversary of us flying to America 4 days after the tragic events of 9/11 and beginning a new season, indeed an epic season of our lives. So September the 15th means for me, new season. But as I sat that day, just about to speak, I looked at my watch. I not only saw the date, but I realized it was the 22nd anniversary of that flight. 22 years, and of course 22 immediately took me to the great verses of Isaiah 22 and verse 22, that the key of the house of David will be on the shoulder, to open doors that no man will shut, and to shut doors that no man will open. And I'll jump in a moment to where that takes us. But just for a minute, I want to tell you this. I believe that it's a new season, and I believe it's the year of the open door. Now, I began to say this before I noticed that a number of significant prophets were saying this too. I also had a sequence of events on that day when I realized that September the 15th was Rosh Hashanah, and that the year was 5784, and that the symbol or the theme for the year of the Jewish year 5784 is the year of the open door. And I could go into more because I had 4 specific things that happened that day that said, open door, open door, open door. Well, another season in my life has just closed as well. My mother has gone into care, and my wife, incredibly, much more than anyone else in the family, has stewarded that transition. And 2 days ago, we walked out of my mother's old house that we had sold to fund her care home. And we walked really, in many respects, away from for our inheritance, because the money from the house will go towards the care costs. But we stood at that door together and we shut the door and we declared, we're shutting this door. And because we know one thing, that in order to open new doors, you have to often close doors behind you. I want to encourage you, it's the year of the open door. But then let me jump forwards back to Isaiah 8, actually, and Isaiah 9. And you see a text behind that I crafted out of Isaiah chapter 8. You see, because it actually says there that if you don't carry the law and the testimony, you have no dawn. And I believe our assignment is to awaken the dawn. So then we see in Isaiah 8, we see an incredible sequence. We see actually it's the middle of prophecy, the prophecy in Genesis that Jacob gave to Zebulun and Naphtali. And here we see in Isaiah chapter 9, Zebulun and Naphtali appearing, and because it's the prophetic. that there will be breakthrough in the land of Zebulun and Naphtali. And fast forward to Matthew chapter 4. Where did Jesus go? From Nazareth, he went to Zebulun and Naphtali. And it was in that place where he called his disciples. It is in that place that we see the breakthrough of signs, wonders, and miracles. And it is in that place that the gospel is preached. You see, the people who walked in darkness, they have seen a great light. It's incredible that in Isaiah chapter 8, it talks about discipleship. It talks about signs, wonders, and miracles. It talks about really the gospel. And I just want to encourage every one of you. You see, the key of the house of David's on the shoulder. Go from there, of course, Isaiah 22, reflect back that the government is on the shoulder of a son. And isn't that what we need today? We need the establishing of the government of heaven on the shoulders of sons and daughters who walk Christ-like lives. Yes, Zebulun and Naphtali prophesied to in Genesis there that they would be by the sea. They would be like a doe let loose. They would say beautiful words. Then in the middle of the Bible, as it were, in Isaiah, we see there the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. And it's a prophetic about the land of Zebulun and of Naphtali. And then we see that Jesus first ministered there. Isn't this the breakthrough we walk for? Those who walked in darkness have seen a radiant light shining upon them. They once lived in the shadows of death, but now a glorious light has dawned. Lord, you have multiplied the nation and given them overwhelming joy. They are ecstatic in your presence and rejoice like those who bring in a great harvest and those who divide up the spoils of victory. Yes, that's what it's all about. When we stand and read these great scriptures at Christmas, I believe they're prophetic for individual lives. It's the year of the open door. For Europe, I believe it's a prophetic word. No more gloom for those who are in distress, says Isaiah 9 verse 1. Although the Lord greatly humbled the regions of Zebulun and Naphtali, he will one day bestow on them great honor from the Mediterranean eastward to the other side of Jordan and throughout the Galilee of the Gentiles. And that great honor was that Jesus walked amongst them. He walked the land. And then, it gets better. I want to tell you this. If you've had a tough season, if you've been through some tough stuff, then some of my favorite verses are these. Isaiah 9:4. For you have broken the chains that have bound your people and lifted off the heavy bar across their shoulders, the rod the oppressor used against them. You have shattered all their bondage, just as you did when Midian's armies were defeated. But listen to this. Every boot of marching troops, every boot of the warrior, and every uniform caked with blood. There are many different translations of this, but I've often asked the question, because it then goes on to say, will be burned as fuel for the fire. Every boot, every boot that you've worn in battle, everywhere you've been, all of the dirt and the mud you picked up on life's journey, every part of your life that has got, as it were, blood stained from the battle will become fuel for the fire. What fire? You may ask yourself. Revival fire. Revival fire. Because this is prophesying of the one, the child has been born for us. A son has been given for us. Revival fire. And that Jesus, Jacob prophesied to Zebulun and Naphtali. Zebulun and Naphtali there in Isaiah. You hardly hear of these two tribes, do you? But then in Matthew chapter 4, there is the land of Galilee by the sea, just as was prophesied, a doe let loose, saying beautiful words. It's our Jesus. When we read Isaiah chapter 9 this Christmas, don't miss the depth, the power, the beauty, the prophetic significance. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. It's our time. Let's stand up and declare it really is our time, Europe's time, my land's time, my country's time, my family's time, my time. And I choose to put the boots that I've worn in battle this year, the blood-stained garments that I've acquired this year because of the battle, I put them as fuel for the fire, revival fire. May God bless every one of you this Christmas and have an amazing 2024.